This is Mars. Not only the red planet, but home to the oldest stories we have ever told about the sky. Before it was a planet and a telescope, Mars was the god of war and the guardian of the Roman people. A figure tied not only to battle, but to the very founding of Rome. That ancient image still clings to the planet's red glow. For centuries, humanity has looked up and seen not just a world, but a symbol, the fire star, the war god, the next frontier. Mars has lived in our myths, our fears, and our science fiction dreams long before we ever touched its dust for real. Now, as robots roam its deserts and orbiters map its scars, the legend and the planet begin to merge. Home of dusty, dry deserts and red sands, Mars is the perfect backdrop for the human adventure. Good day, friends. Welcome to Planet XSF. I'm Dave. Your experience may vary. Today, we're blasting off to Mars, the planet Hollywood has been confidently misunderstanding for decades. In the 1950s and 60s, Mars was apparently home to angry aliens, underground civilizations, Santa Claus kidnappers, wizards, and a whole lot of profoundly stupid astronauts making unbelievably bad decisions. Basically, if filmmakers saw a red desert, they said, perfect, add monsters, a breathing tube, and some ridiculous overacting. And before we get started, I should note this list is made up of movies set on Mars, from the earliest days of cinema up to the 50s and 60s. Although films like Invaders from Mars are undeniably classics, it's set on Earth, so it doesn't quite qualify for this list. In fact, all these films involve Earthlings landing on Mars, so technically, we are the invaders. Rest assured, we'll be covering all manner of alien invasions very soon. So today, we're taking a trip through a weird and wonderful and occasionally ridiculous selection of 11 movies set on Mars, comprised of some early sci-fi oddities. Buckle up, check your oxygen, and try not to trust anyone that looks even vaguely green. A Trip to Mars, 1910. A distinctly American response by the Edison Studios to A Trip to the Moon by Georges Méliès. A professor uses anti-gravity powder to reach Mars, where he encounters bizarre dangers like semi-human, semi-tree monsters and giants made of rocks before being sent back to Earth. Aelita, 1924. A man travels to Mars, falls under the spell of Queen Aelita, and leads an uprising against the ruling authorities. Mars is communist. This movie became such a hit in the Soviet Union that many new parents named their girls Aelita. In Denmark in 2013, the art gallery Den Fri hosted a science fiction-themed exhibition called Stedet er Rummet. Space is the place. It included an installation called Queen of Mars by Jesper Carlson, consisting of this film, retitled The Adventures of Jupiter 3D, projected onto a photograph of a planet landscape. The film and its filmmakers were not credited. Just Imagine, 1930. In this futuristic musical comedy, the first of its kind, set in the far-off year of 1980, a pair of Earthlings journey to Mars and encounter a strange alien society comprised of scantily clad women doing Busby Berkeley-style dance numbers and worshipping a fat middle-aged man. The spaceship used in this film became Dr. Zarkov's rocket in Flash Gordon in 1936. Footage of a dance number featuring an idol was used in the serial as entertainment for Ming the Merciless. This film was nominated for an Oscar for Best Art Direction. Rocket Ship XM, 1950. The setup for the film was the launch of Rocket Ship Expedition Moon, hence the title. Through a series of unforeseen events, and because they are complete boneheads, the expedition's crew find themselves on Mars, discovering the remnants of a Martian civilization destroyed long ago by atomic war and now reverted to barbarism. This is one of the first times a movie showed the dangers of atomic war and might have actually been the first. Unlike most sci-fi films of the 1950s, this early effort correctly predicted that multi-stage rockets were needed to achieve Earth orbit. When the film was originally released theatrically in 1950, the sequences on Mars were tinted red so as to impart a sense of the alien red planet into the black and white film. But subsequent TV prints did not reproduce this effect, and for decades the Martian scenes were shown only in black and white, until the red tint was restored for home video in the early 1980s. And as far as red tint goes, whew, boy, you ain't seen nothing yet. Flight to Mars, 1951. The first human expedition to Mars discovers an underground civilization whose people are struggling to survive. Mars is running low on one of their natural resources, corium, and plan to steal the Earth astronauts' rocket and conquer Earth. The Martian underground helps the Earthmen stop the insidious plan. Showing the filmmakers' dedication as true pioneers of recycling, the suits that the Martians wear were leftovers from Destination Moon in 1950, and the interior of the spaceship is the same one used for rocket ship XM in 1950. According to star Cameron Mitchell, the entire film was shot in 5 days. Hard to believe, I know. Conquest of Space, 1955. A team of astronauts departs from a space station on humanity's first mission to Mars, but the captain's religious beliefs may get in the way. The spaceship design was taken from aerospace engineer and actual Nazi Werner von Braun's actual designs that appeared in a 1954 issue of Collier's. General Merritt's opinions on man's trespass into space was actually a reflection of a real-life movement. In the 1950s, there were those who claimed that the heavens were God's domain and that humans would be committing blasphemy by engaging in space travel. Although real, the movement was never very widespread, and once the actual space travel began, it was quickly drowned out by the public enthusiasm for the space race. The Angry Red Planet, 1959. Whew, brace yourselves. Survivors of a Mars expedition recount their encounter with the planet's deadly creatures in a hostile environment. Only 2 from an initial crew of 4 are still alive, but one is unconscious due to an attached alien growth, while the other is traumatized, blocking out all memory of what happened. In hopes to save the unconscious crewman, the amnesiac is interrogated back into remembering. Those in charge thereby learn of the terrible dangers awaiting anyone venturing into the spooky, ruddy stillness of the very alien Martian ecosystem. The much-touted cinemagic process, which was used for the scene set on Mars, was actually the result of a film development mistake. The budget was slashed mid-production, so the producers considered turning the film into black and white to keep costs down. However, one reel became accidentally double exposed, which produced a shimmering, vaguely psychedelic glare that director Ib Melchior latched onto, thinking it would suit his purposes for the Mars scenes. It also helped to camouflage the cheap Martian monsters and scenery. For example, the 40-foot alien monster was actually a marionette about 15 inches high. It was essentially a combination of a rat, bat, spider, and crab. Robinson Crusoe on Mars, 1964. During a flight to Mars in the spaceship Mars Gravity Probe 1, Commander Christopher Kit Draper and Colonel Dan McCready are forced to deviate by an asteroid, and they leave their spacecraft in pods. Draper lands on the surface of the red planet and survives. With a monkey named Mona as a companion, and a new friend, a former slave Draper calls Friday, the intrepid astronaut must find a way to survive in the hope of being rescued. Although the story allows Kit to breathe the limited amount of oxygen on Mars, the atmosphere there is, in fact, almost 96% carbon dioxide. He would fare almost as well drawing from an automobile tailpipe. The 2 lead human actors were both convinced the work they had done in this ambitious and imaginative film would provide a substantial boost to their careers. However, the lackluster distribution that Paramount gave the film, along with poor box office performance, caused both actors' careers to suffer severe lags for years afterwards. Mantee, in fact, said that he didn't work again as an actor for 11 months. This is a personal favorite, and trust me when I tell you, do not participate in any drinking game in which you take a drink every time Kit raises or lowers his visor. You risk serious alcohol poisoning or at the very least extreme intoxication. Santa Claus Conquers the Martians, 1964. Martians kidnap Santa Claus in hopes of bringing joy and cheer to the children of Mars. Worried that their children have become obsessed with television shows from Earth which extol the virtues of Santa Claus, Martians begin an expedition to Earth to kidnap the one and only Santa Claus. While on Earth, they kidnap 2 lively children, Billy and Betty Foster, that lead the group of Martians to the North Pole and Santa Claus. The Martians then take Santa and the 2 children back to Mars with them. Santa, with the help of 2 Earth children and rather simple-minded Martian lackey, overcome the Martians by bringing fun, happiness, and Christmas cheer to the children of Mars. Because he's Santa, that's why. This film includes the first film appearance of Mrs. Claus. Torg, the Martian robot, is an anagram of Gort, the robot from the day the Earth stood still. The entire film was shot in 4 days at a converted aircraft hangar in Long Island, New York, which is now a shopping mall. The Wizard of Mars, 1965. Steve, Doc, Charlie, and Dorothy are astronauts on a spacecraft approaching Mars in the distant future of 1975. They must try to survive on the surface, which is barren except for some canals with huge maggots with fins. After embarking through a golden igneous cavern, braving a storm and finding an unmanned Earth vessel, they discover a golden road which leads into the unchanging ruins of what was once a beautiful Martian city. Many of the audio effects were lifted from Forbidden Planet in 1956. As you may have suspected, this film is loosely based on L. Frank Baum's Wizard of Oz. Next children's classic could be made into a sci-fi epic, The Very Hungry Caterpillar. Coming soon to a fever dream near you. Mission Mars, 1968. US and Soviet astronauts encounter disaster during the race to Mars. Helmets worn by the astronauts on Mars in this film, which appear to be painted motorcycle helmets, are open to the outside atmosphere, rendering their air supply useless. Darren McGavin is a talented actor, but his choice of roles was questionable at best. He would return to Mars as an astronaut in the TV series The Martian Chronicles 11 years later, but he may be better known as the intrepid reporter Carl Kolchak in the series Kolchak the Night Stalker, or as the dad in A Christmas Story. Music by New York City's psychedelic quintet The Forum Quorum. Unfortunately, star Nick Adams was found dead of an overdose in February 1968, almost 6 months before the completed film was released that July. Whether it was rubber-suited aliens, cosmic disasters, or people showing up on Mars with way more confidence than preparation, these movies gave us a red planet that was strange, dangerous, and very entertaining. Honestly, that's what we want. If you enjoyed this trip to Retro Mars, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments which Mars movie is your favorite, or which one feels the most completely unhinged. It's up to you. I'm Dave. Thanks for joining me. Remain awesome until further notice.